Hello and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Mike Wilson, CEO and co-founder of Hamachi. Hamachi is an artificial intelligence platform that sits on top of advisors' data and helps them create various bots to help them action various workflows and other needs within their business. And with that, here's my interview with Mike. Mike, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Jason. Great to see you.
So Mike Wilson of Hamachi, tell us about Hamachi.
Well, Hamachi is a governing intelligence layer for advisors. We take scattered household level data, whether that's coming from your CRM, your portfolio management system, your planning systems, and then we orchestrate expert bots around that data to make it actionable, and they deliver daily precision and create things, anything from a daily dossier to what we're referring to as a household brief, and shoot a million different things in between.
Okay, we're going to dive into what's involved in making that happen, as well as what the benefits are of it shortly. But before we get there, tell me about the origin story. How'd you come to be?
Well, I've been in wealth management technology for my entire career. And so have my co-founders, Eric Clark, Brian McLaughlin, and Mustafa Basiri. We have all been business partners and close personal friends for a long time, and saw, the dawn of, like the .com, right, era, where we moved everything from the PC to the web, and things went from being .net to .com to SaaS, the cloud. We've seen it all, and we helped the investment advisory community make that migration. And all of us have now seen another era come about really quick this time, right? With AI, and the four of us consistently were meeting after we all happened to leave Orion. And we said, what can we do to help advisors out on this journey? And Jason, we saw, a couple of things happening a lot. Either advisors were not using AI because they were kind of freaked out by it for good reason, right? Like there's, it can be a little bit daunting, or they were using AI kind of like on the side of their desk on just maybe they're using ChatGPT and kind of freewheeling it. We said, well, wait a second, there's an opportunity for us to come in here and build something that is compliant. It's governed. It's getting ahead of any, forthcoming SEC and or FINRA regulation. And so we started with what you might refer to as like an email client. It's an add-on that we built on top of Outlook and Gmail that does an incredible job of helping advisors understand what their clients and prospects are asking them in emails. It does an incredible job of responding to those questions and then making outreach. And so we rolled that out, built this tight governance around it that does everything from PII redaction to making sure that the content that we produce is SEC and FINRA compliant. We did all that. And then we saw our initial users saying like, this is incredible, but we love your chatbot even more. Like we want to do all the things that we have been doing previously in ChatGPT or Gemini on the side of our desk. We want to be able to do that with the guardrails you guys have in place. So we've been hard at it ever since, kind of opening up the broader use cases while keeping those guardrails in the forefront. And of course, I can't stress enough how important like our integration strategy is, being able to pull in those key platforms.
Yeah, well, I mean, frankly, AI is nothing if it doesn't have the proper data going into it, right? So given that there's only a couple endpoints that all the key core information for advisors are sitting on, and you guys came from Orion, so you had all of it. Basically, without that, what do you get to action? All right. So it makes perfect sense that the integrations are the cornerstone of this. Okay. So let's talk about, I mean, first off, you talked about a number of things. The being able to throw the chatbot in there, I mean, kind of is like icing on the cake, because effectively all you're doing is eliminating the swivel chair need, and you're also giving them that functionality within a secure enclave. But before we go talking about the replacing of general purpose AIs, let's talk about the actual workflow. Let's talk about some significant examples you've come up with thus far of how you've enabled advisor workflow through the use of these, through the use of effectively, you refer to them as bots. I think it's fair to call them agents, depending on what term you want to use. What's been done to date?
Sorry, what did you say there?
So specifically the use of the actual end use case. Let's break this down to practical like examples of what the workflow looks like. I'm an advisor. I want to accomplish X. What is X? What does that workflow look like? What is the end result?
Okay. Well, I'll give you one example. I'll refer to it as our daily dossier. So as soon as you first log into Hamachi, which takes a second, right? Then you
Mhm.
connect your CRM, which takes another second. We build an incredibly intelligent connector between Hamachi and Salesforce, Redtail, all the other players that you might have in mind for CRM. As soon as you do those two things, you get instant value out of Hamachi in terms of like this daily dossier, which is think of it as like a morning briefing that gives you what truly matters. So it gives you client milestones, what's going on that day, any meetings you have coming up, flag tasks, compliance checks, all in one place before you literally have your cup of coffee. Like it instantly puts that together. And one of the things that's really cool about it, Jason, is because we have this expert agent or bot marketplace around it, we can gather insights that help you orient yourself to that day. All right. So maybe you work with a certain asset manager that has a religion that you follow, right? So to speak.
Mm.
So you have a certain type of coaching strategy and the way that you work with clients like that overlays on your daily dossiers. So it really helps you say like, okay, these are things that we need to focus on today to make everyone level up in that sense. So that's one key workflow that we baked in Hamachi and like instantly as soon as a user turns it on, we'll get that.
Well, I mean, it makes a great way to start the day because effectively, along the lines of the thinking of next best actions in other technologies, you're basically telling them that, but on a more all-encompassing layer across multiple levels of interaction.
And so from that, we go from a daily dossier that might say like, hey, you need to take a look at the Barrett family. Maybe you don't have a meeting with them today, but maybe there's something flagging here that you need to take a look at. You then open up the Barrett family inside Hamachi, and we produce a brief on that family with any, actionable items are highlighted right out of the gate. So you don't need to comb through your CRM. You don't need to talk to your service team. You don't need to like try to get situated with however Salesforce or any of the other CRMs that might be out there. However they organize data, we immediately isolate it. I'll give you like a really cool example that we just came across. And it's not necessarily like the house is on fire and an advisor came in and put out the flames. It's like a cool prospecting kind of component. So we had an advisor using Hamachi and there was a flag in the daily dossier that said you have to check out this certain household, and the advisor dug into the household brief and it said, hey, your service team is talking to this person all the time about a 401k.
Mhm.
And they're saying, we don't manage your 401k, so stop calling us. You need to reach out to you need to get back to your, the custodian that had your 401k. And the advisor is like, wait, it's like, I can go deal with that 401k, right? Like I can get that, take discretion on that. And so he immediately grabbed onto that opportunity and turned it into an opportunity. So went from being like a service, like headache for his team, being like a opportunity win for them.
Yeah, and easier for it to find and keep in mind all the context that comes in all conversation than it is for a human being to do.
That's right.
Talk to me about, let's go back to the integration pieces to get a bigger picture of where it is you're going. I mean, if you're already integrating with, like so red with the CRMs, you're basically collecting the honeypot of client data that exists, but where else are you tying into at this point?
So we're tying to portfolio management systems as well. And I guess you could even think of them as being beyond portfolio management to platforms like an Orion, where we can, gather, of course, account holdings. But as we dig deeper into those platforms, we'll be able to look at trading and trading history, and platforms like Orion have model marketplaces, right? So we can see, what inventory is out there that we might even be able to help an advisor recommend or promote in the journey. So portfolio management and platforms is a big one. We're also looking at companies like, I don't know if you're familiar with TaxStatus.
Oh yeah.
But,
Yep. Former
uh,
guest.
okay, excellent. Yep. So we were working with TaxStatus to pull in their, content, right? So that I'm sure you saw recent news about what is it, altruist and what they're doing with tax
You mean,
balance.
the massive impact to the stock market that altruist caused? Yeah. I was joking with Jason about that on LinkedIn yesterday.
So that, I mean, well, that's coming soon to Hamachi as well as a tax status integration where we feel like we can make a significant unlock of analysis and support advisors in the journey that may be akin to what altruist is doing. I haven't seen quite exactly what they're up to, but it feels similar to what we're Hamachi. So
I can
that's,
show you after. Okay. Continue. But
yeah,
they got a lot going on over there.
I'm sure they do. It's a
Yeah.
great organization.
So, you know, I guess the real question that comes to mind when I think about the world of AI as it exists right now and where everybody sits, you know, everybody's trying to tie into different pockets of data and then apply basic use cases or just even great use cases of LLMs over top of it. But effectively, in my mind, there's a lot of kind of like battle for what is the thing that advisors are going to be staring at, right? We currently have our PM platforms. We have our productivity suites and email. We have our CRMs. If you're a financial planner, you have the planning one. So you got those four pillars, right? And the one thing I've been very kind of like bearish on is the idea that we're going to have a fifth one, and that's going to be this AI window, because frankly, the AI window is all about functionality versus the content and storage, right? So it's better belongs in places that we're already in. You're kind of building a platform that's saying we want to be the centralized kind of hub of this stuff. And there's different viewpoints on this, the CRM, the note takers. Like, where do you think, what's your kind of thinking around where you place yourself for this?
Yeah, well, you know, we look at ourselves as having, like, we do have a chatbot, we do have an add-on for the email clients and so forth, which are great, right? But we're extensible, right? We built this on an API that any third party can embed Hamachi into their own native experiences. I don't want to. I don't want to have a war for the desktop like that. That doesn't. I'm not. We're not in that game. We
Mhm.
want to be where advisors are living. So if they're inside of their CRM, sure. Like we can imagine a day where there's a Hamachi, maybe it's not even branded Hamachi inside of whatever your CRM du jour is, right?
Mhm.
Where you're engaging with content. And maybe you're not even using chat. Maybe you're just using the behind the scenes type of workflows that we're producing. Maybe you just see a daily dossier, see a household brief, whatever it is, right? Those are just two, examples of the type of things we're doing.
Yeah. So you're looking at yourself both as potentially a platform, but also an API call effectively to someone else's integrated AI experience effectively.
I should also mention too, Jason, like, I've discussed briefly this concept of our bot store and agent store, if you will. We also have what we refer to as bring your own bot. So if you have your own agents that you've created on various platforms and you want to distribute them through Hamachi, whether it's through our user experience or through our API, we've successfully been able to do that for other folks. So that means that, again, if you have an agent or agents that you've created
Mhm.
and you want to get potentially thousands of advisors to use them or have access to them, whether that's an email, whether that's in a chatbot, or whether that's in through an API, like we can support that too.
So basically, this is the workflow you enable to date, and you've taken away, the need for swivel chair from the advisor, moving from a chatbot into your platform, and you've integrated into contextual information that is relevant to their practice to be able to action that with a chatbot and LLM tools. You know, where do you see yourself developing the platform beyond where you are today? I mean, you already talked about tax status and that integration potentially coming, well, potentially becoming. What else? Like, where do you see this going? Because I mean, it's kind of a very uncertain time for what software looks like in the future.
I think, Jason, like some of the things that we're doing, we're working a lot more on like complex workflows. So there's a company that we're having some great conversations with. They're named FP Pathfinder.
Yep.
Run wonderful company, and they have this incredible library of content, right? We're looking to take that and make it again live, like rather than using PDFs, which are great and like very effective, but rather than using PDFs to sit down with an investor in hand to hand combat, try to like say like, here's, the steps that we might be able to go. because we have the context available through CRM, employment management, planning, and because we understand the relationship between advisor and investor, we can take an advisor down the journey of and investor relationship down the journey of like determining which type of workloads are relevant and how far along can we like get them before we actually have to start asking questions. That's one that we're really excited about. And when I talk more about like advisor to investor, all we've really mentioned to so far are like email correspondence. We also have recently announced an integration with financial.
Mhm.
And something that really excites me about that, beyond all the great data they have on their platform, is the ability for advisors to be using Hamachi to generate content that they want to communicate with an investor and push that through financials client portal. So that's a really, really neat path.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm friends and our colleagues with both of those guys. I mean, Mike over at FE Pathfinders, we've often talked about how he has a wonderful intelligence layer around, God, how many flow charts and checklists does he have, right? I mean, you think about just being able to feed that source of truth and authority into your LLM and now know like, oh no, this is not just a probabilistic guess at what I'm supposed to do next, that this is a, time tested, proven,
Yes.
curated workflow. Like, there is no hallucinating there. That is such a sense of reassurance. So I'm glad to see you guys are doing a deal with him because we've talked about his use, him selling that way. And then as for Tom and financial, I made comments about for the years about the single biggest own goal in this industry is the fact we own no real estate on clients' phones. So the fact that he's doing that and that you're enabling the pushing out of experience generated on your platform to his, yeah, you're right. It's a better effort to meet the clients where they're at.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really enthused by both of those.
They're both fantastic options.
Going on like additional integration paths. We're going other folks that we're talking to just enrich our platform are more in the investment analysis and research space. So big firms like Morningstar and Zacks Investment Research, pulling in their content, of course, to just add that dimension to any type of forensic that you want to run in real time around your client base. You could do that at large and say, Morningstar, tell me which my clients, funds that are, their star ratings are unfavorable this month. Or you could do it more on a micro level and say, like, give me an analysis of this household's. You could say that, Zacks, I want the latest research for these various households.
So, I mean, that's interesting because you're basically talking about two very different value propositions there, right? We talked about your ability to put all that information in one agent that could then basically not only answers questions, but also trigger workflows and provide value. So that puts them on a common platform. Fantastic. You talked about using third-party validated data, specifically through the likes of TaxStatus, to enrich the experience beyond what we normally have access to. So also layering on more data there. The intelligence layer that you're going to get from the likes of FP Pathfinders, which gives you, again, not having to worry about figuring it out now, being told how it's done and how it's done with authority and what the actual common breakpoints are. Fantastic. And lastly, you're talking about distribution, right? About how we basically get that information out to the client. So, in a lot of ways, like, of course, you're sitting as this interesting, like, hub to these spokes as an interesting middle layer, but the one that can actually action things accordingly and not action things in the way that Zapier used to do, which is let me spend a bunch of time figuring out this workflow and manually input this and then all these conditions and whatever. But through the magic of natural language processing, being able to simply just tell the machine what you want.
I mean, it's an amazing time. I think back to like maybe like the dark ages of when we wanted to integrate data. We had to click flat files and figure that out, and like everyone had their own format. And then we moved to APIs gradually over time, which was a lot better. And now we have these, a lot of these firms have MCP servers, which allow us to really connect our large language models to APIs and various endpoints, which has been, a great journey. But still to this day, and you know this, Jason, like advisors' data is like all over the place. Even if they get it into Salesforce, it's still a mess. And that's no shade on advisor. It's not just advisor. Like you talk to probably any Fortune 500 company and their Salesforce data is probably a mess. and what's super cool about what we've done in Hamachi is we can pull in that data and normalize it and make it actionable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the future is not filling out forms. The real present should be like with our own, each of us with our own personalized digital identity that you put your thumb down and suddenly it all goes over based on what you want. But we know we're not there yet. To me, I look at my onboarding process, and look at everybody's onboarding process and say, what's better than the client keying things in or me keying things in? Just upload these documents and I'll extract every last piece of that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. With Hamachi, we recently, or a while ago now, we selected a CRM for ourselves. We're using HubSpot, which is great.
Mhm.
But as I worked through it, it asked me to create these things like custom fields. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I
Yeah.
creating custom fields? I just want to be able to tell it stuff and have know what's up.
I mean, there is something to be said. Like I'm doing a big vibe coding project right now, and I do use Salesforce, and there's something nice to be able to say, let's just start with their data model, as opposed to shooting in the dark. All right. So, there is some value to that to intelligence that pre-exists out there. But yeah, it's, not having to start from square one or zero, or, simply saying, this is the thing I want to do. Here are the inputs, and then having it all the way through create, those fields, those conditions, whatever else is necessary, and have me tweak. Far better than sitting there through a workflow tool and being like, okay, Dropbox, here's the manually entered, 12 different options I want. Like, yeah, yeah, life is easier.
And give some credit to one of my co-founders, Brian McLaughlin in particular. Like the Redtail is like it's been a winner because it's purpose built for
Yeah.
advisors.
So, okay. So, I mean, you said you're not interested in a war for attention, but it's interesting though, because I look at what you're talking about. And frankly, how do you not play the game to win that? I mean, the reality is that I feel like the AI world is, thus far, the war for attention is being fought on two dimensions. One, it's the pre-existing technologies that exist that are probably, other than the CRM, are like point solutions. Where the CRM kind of is a point solution, but it ties in other data that again is a mess or is not a mess, who knows? But let's give you a chatbot there because we want to keep you here and we don't want to lose you. And even though we're a bit of a legacy software, we're going to throw this functionality on here and hopefully it'll also make legacy software feel a lot better. Then you have the note takers on the other side, which are capturing communication at the point of origin and hoping to basically move down funnel is what it looks like in terms of, workflow automation. And you're taking a pretty much a almost novel approach to it, simply saying, we're not going to sit on either end of those. We're going to sit in the middle. They're going to sit in the middle and we're going to become the orchestration layer. And I think that, business wise as a strategy, that's a pretty good position to be sitting in because frankly, you don't have to worry, if a note taker wants to become a CRM, great. You're not going to pick up all those clients as CRM clients. Like there's a utility there that maybe people don't want to replace. If the CRMs want to throw in their chatbots, that's fine, but you're still limited. But there's need for greater orchestration, and that's probably not best lived within the CRM either. So sitting in there in the middle and being an AI-enabled Grand Central Station for clearance of information, but also actioning, pretty smart place to be, I think.
Thank you. And the other big part of it too, like two things I want to call out. One is the governance component that we built in, right? Which
Mhm.
is because of the way we built this platform originally for, we started on email, we built it purpose built for advisors, is that we have these pretty rigid guardrails around it,
Mhm.
Jason, that, make sure that every single time that you enter in any piece of information in Hamachi, before it gets to a large language model, we redact any PII. That's a
Perfect.
big deal.
Yep.
Like you can't, I guarantee people have, whether they wanted to, meant to or not, been in ChatGPT and been like, oh, like, I want to run an analysis on this statement. Like they upload a statement.
Oh, advisors have written articles about doing that. Like I sit there and I cringe and I think to myself, like, geez, at least do that in Copilot or Gemini on an enterprise level. But like, there's some guardrails there to some degree. But what you're talking about, the sanitation aspect. What's interesting. Again, I have a global perspective on this. Outright, that is, I can point to any number of other legislation around the world that says, yeah, buddy, you just got fined. Like you just did something that you're going to seriously pay for this. But I don't know. US guys just don't have the same general awareness of privacy legislation.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the freight train is coming on that. Like I don't know, I'd be pretty nervous if I was just using any of those platforms freewheeling it. Not to mention, even if you have an enterprise version of ChatGPT or of Gemini, you still need to be extremely careful. I have a friend he's with EY, a consultant with EY, and all his team is doing right now is working with enterprise customers, again, Fortune 500 customers that want to implement OpenAI internally or Copilot internally. And what they do is they build these governance wrappers around it, like what Hamachi has. And they use, all these different third-party technologies and to build this up, and they're paid, multi-million dollars. EY gets, multi-million dollar contracts to install these things, when an advisor can come to Hamachi and get that as part of our platform, or a broker dealer for that matter. We have a great broker dealer that recently has signed up as a client of ours. We haven't released their name yet, so I'm not sure if I can put it out yet, but they said we can finally say yes to the advisors who want to use AI because of what you put in place. You have all the observability, every single chat, every single interaction that a user has with Hamachi is completely transparent, audited, can be reviewed. We can go back and see what was asked of the LLM, what was answered by the LLM, what was the precision level of that response. All that occurs in runtime. Not to mention the fact that we have all these SEC and FINRA checks on any client materials that are produced.
Purpose-built beats general any day of the week. Basically the stewardship that you're putting in place in terms of data, data security is only going to pay dividends because something's coming. The move fast and break things attitude of technology works well and good when you're not in a highly regulated industry. And we are absolutely in a highly regulated industry with enormous amounts of PII, like incredibly detailed, enormous amounts of PII. So to think that, we shouldn't be taking a position of caution from the start is foolish. And it's something we absolutely have to take seriously.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
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 You're right.
So before we wrap it up, there's 3 questions I'd like to end on a positive note with. And the first one is, if you had one wish for something to change in your company or industry as a whole, what would it be?
I guess if there's one thing I could change in the industry as a whole, and I'll tell you from a personal experience, is I would just love to see the communication between advisor and investor improve. And by that, I mean, I'd love to see it get to be more personalized, more responsive, faster. There's a lot of bottlenecks. I understand when an advisor has a question come in, or if they have a prospect, like I was a prospect recently for an advisor and for multiple advisors, and none of them did a good job coming back to me. I had specific questions. My father-in-law had the same exact thing happen to him. And that's, again, it's not to point fingers at any industry or any advisor. It's just, people have limited amount of time in their day. And when there's concerns and bottlenecks, and people will say oh, I want to tell this guy something, but I'm not sure if I can say that because I don't want to get burned or fined or what. I know it's very difficult. And so that's one of the real reasons that we built Hamachi in the first place, is to open up that pipe and make it easier for advisors to have conversations with investors in a highly informed manner.
I think it's a matter, I will say this one, we should all do better. I mean, the reality is, you look at the surveys on the number one reason people leave their advisor, and it's lack of communication. That is inexcusable, right? I shouldn't say it's inexcusable. People are going to make excuses for all the time. At the end of the day, it's just demonstrated preference versus stated preference. They're prioritizing other things over getting back to clients. And you know what? Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Sometimes there's compliance bottlenecks. Sometimes there's data recovery bottlenecks or something, whatever. But there's nothing stopping someone from basically saying, I got your request. I need a day. Give it to me. All we want to know is, we all want to be acknowledged. That's it, right? So just being timely with it is absolutely necessary. And the one thing I will say, to pat my firm on the back, we get a lot of compliments on our responsiveness. That's one thing I said to everybody who works with us. The one thing I will never ever accept is a client telling us because they left because we were uncommunicative. Err on the other side. Anyway, so I agree with you, but I also think some of it is just the way people choosing to spend their time the way they want to choose it and not prioritizing the comms.
Fair.
Second question: what's been the biggest challenge in the company to where it is today?
I think, the biggest challenge to where we are today is it's a gift and a curse, but the speed at which AI is moving things right now. I mean, we're coding at an incredible rate. Like we're putting things together so fast, but there's been, a few times where, we put something out and it's like, oh, well, like that's great. But we can't get that other places now just as easy. And I think that's one of the reasons that we keep doubling down on our governance, Jason, and our compliance components, because you can't get that easily anywhere. You look at, what my friend is doing at EY, right? And he's not alone, right? There's a big gap between what a typical installation of Copilot or even an enterprise license of Gemini and ChatGPT can give you, or OpenAI, compared to what we're bringing to the table in terms of governance, PII protection, observability, and just overall making compliance a kind of an easy button for an advisor.
You're hitting all of the enterprise check boxes when it comes to the questions that they're going to be asking. And frankly, not only is that great for enterprise sales, but that's also the things that advisors don't think about when they're solo practitioners that absolutely matter.
Thank you. Yeah, you don't think about it until it comes in and knocks on your door, right? Sends you a letter, and you're like, okay, now we better pay some more attention to the observability factor, but it's critical. I mean, we've all seen it probably in our our like day job, or not our day job, but like our just kind of having fun with ChatGPT when it tries to like hallucinates on you or tries to make you agree with something that you're like, no way would I ever agree with that. You're wrong. You can't have that happening when you're talking to a client. The stakes are too high.
And yes, as for the pace of change, as someone who just started a Substack on artificial intelligence for financial advisors 2 weeks ago, there's a lot more going into those first couple ones than I thought. I was like, I'll throw in the big 5 stories of the week. And it's just like, nope, there's a lot. All right. So yeah, keeping up is a job in itself. And then the last question is, what excites you about what it is you're working on? It keeps you getting out of bed in the morning to keep on fighting the good fight.
Like I said at the beginning, I've been in this industry my entire career. I love working with advisors and solving problems for advisors. And I see this as being the biggest opportunity of my life in terms of being able to really help revolutionize investment advisory, help advisors become more efficient, make their practices more streamlined and prosperous. I think advisors are going to be able to serve more and more investors than ever before. And I'm super excited to be a part of that, Hamachi.
Well, I wish you nothing but best of luck in that, because every advisor you help make better is 80 to 100 or more families that you help be better off.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time, Mike. Greatly appreciated.
Same here. Thanks, Jason.
So that was Mike Wilson of Hamachi. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you are in the market for trying to coordinate your life as an advisor in a more efficient and AI-driven way, please take a look at Hamachi. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.